Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. We got a great show for you today. The NBA Finals is beginning, and we're going to walk you through it with one of my favorite people. He is the host of In This League podcast network. You can also find his work at Line Star as well, hosting all of their podcasts and so much more. He's the one, the only, Scott Bogman. Bogman, welcome to the show, my friend. I'm ready to talk a little NBA with you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, man, this has been an exciting playoffs, and I know people are talking about whatever team wins is going to need an asterisk. I don't like that narrative at all. I think that's dumb because of all the injuries, because of, all the injuries. So, but, staying healthy is part of it. So I'm excited for the Suns-Bucks finals. I think it's going to be a great one.
And that's what we do have. We have the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks here. We got Giannis hopefully healthy enough to make a difference. We're going to get into that and a whole lot of the other narratives. But, forget the asterisk because I think that's always a cop-out nonsense. You get there. That's what it is. But, these are two teams right now, I would say both efficient offenses, good defenses. And at the end of the day, the teams that get to the finals are the ones that play both ends of the court. And not every team does that. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know that. So are you surprised at all that this is how it ended up?
Not really. Specifically after the injuries. When Kawhi got hurt, I thought the Clippers series for the Suns was going to be a tough one, but Kawhi got hurt. He wasn't able to play that series, so I was not surprised that the Suns buzzed past them. The Bucks, I think a lot of people were surprised that they got past the Nets. I just think really, Harden getting banged up, and Irving going down in that series obviously hurt them a ton, but I think that was just really a lack of experience together with those guys before that. So it's not surprising to me that the Bucks are playing the Suns in the playoffs at this point. I think I would have expected the Bucks a little bit more than the Suns, starting the playoffs, but they burned through the Lakers, and after they burned through the Lakers, I knew they had a chance. So it should be a really, really exciting one.
I know everyone wanted to anoint the Nets, and all of that, but I think you're making up a great point, which is basically, it does take kind of time for these things to gel together. And
well, we say that, teams. And Chris Paul walks right into Phoenix and takes him to the finals like he's Tom Brady. That's kind of crazy.
But more often than not, it is the former. More often than not, there's a little transition, and they'll be back again together trying to, do it all again. I don't know if Kyrie Irving will be back necessarily. We'll figure that all out. But now that we're looking at these two teams, what's your assessment in terms of momentum? Before we go breaking down, we're going to talk about game one. We're going to go through Bogman's picks to win it all. We're going to talk about the wagering prop bets, the MVP, and a few other things too, including how many games this series is going to go and how he thinks about that. But when you're looking at the assessment heading into the finals, momentum, health, obviously both things kind of loom large right now. Who do you think kind of, has all that stuff working for them a little bit more?
I think the edge has to go to the Suns because, GA is doubtful to play game one. They think he's going to come back in the series because it is more of a day-to-day thing. I know our guy, Dr. Chow, has talked about how it's, it looks like he might be out for the playoffs. And maybe that's the case. Maybe they're just talking it up and all that because it that hyperextension seemed pretty bad when it happened. But I think you have to give the momentum to the Suns because they're complete. They got more rest. They're coming in without having to change their dynamic. And I know Charles Barkley said on TNT that he thinks that the best thing for the Bucks was GA going down because they move the ball more efficiently. It more goes through Middleton than GA, so I get that, but that is a big time adjustment that you don't want to be making in your final 7 games of the season. So I think that the momentum side has to go to the Suns.
All right, some key numbers here from Betting Pros before we jump into things here. Look, the Milwaukee Bucks have lost only one home game this postseason. They're 7-1, but they lost 4 games on the road. They're 5-4. On the flip side, the Phoenix Suns were 6-2 on the road and 6-2 at home. So they've been good everywhere. And Phoenix has posted 116.5 points per game at home and 114 on the road this year. So look, as Bogman's kind of saying, it seems like right now Phoenix is the favorite, but let's go through this and kind of figure out where we want to place our chips here when it comes to the NBA Finals. And let's start here with game one. It is in Phoenix. Right now, the Phoenix Suns are 6.5 point favorites in terms of the spread. The money line, you got plus 205 on the Milwaukee Bucks, minus 250 for the Phoenix Suns. And the over-under on this game is 219.5. So when it comes to game one here right out of the gate, what about these numbers kind of makes you want to go to a certain spot? Obviously, you have to lay a ton of money here. Phoenix is a heavy favorite in game one at home. No Giannis, all of those factors. But what do you think about the over-under and the spread? Because it seems like there might be some possibility to make some money there.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to take the under on this, and I know you said these teams are both good on both sides, but they're both 1 and 2 in defensive efficiency during the regular season. So I think taking the under, what is it, 219 and a half?
219 and a half. Yep.
Yeah, I think I take the under on game one. This is also going to be a weird, I guess tone setting game as well. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't, I think the Suns are going to win, and that's you're giving away too much to make money there. So I'm not going to bet the straight money line. I think I would take the Suns minus the 6.5. I think the atmosphere is going to be insane here in Phoenix for game one. The town, this is a basketball town. I've lived here for over 25 years, and this is a basketball town because the Suns were first. And this is the second finals they've ever made. First one since 1993. The people are excited. There's a buzz in the air. It's going to be great. So I think that I'm going to take the Suns minus the 6.5 if I'm betting on the game. But I think my favorite bet is probably the under for tonight because they're going to kind of be playing it out, feeling each other out. I think this is going to be a long series, and I think this is going to be a fun game one.
The last time the Suns fans were this excited probably was going back to those Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, KJ kind of days. Those were some fun teams for sure.
When Rex Chapman was hitting big shots and not just a guy on Twitter,
Right, taking shots. Yeah, that's true. Now, when we're looking at the series total games, when you're looking over on FanDuel for a sweep, you've got a plus 600 number there, which, again, seems a little unlikely. Sweeps are really just one team just blowing the other team out of the water, and I think that's going to be a tough sell here from the Milwaukee standpoint. Then you go to 5 games plus 240, 6 games plus 200, 7 games plus 190. So all of a sudden it drops precipitously from that 6 to between 190 and 240. Where's the sweet spot for you if you're going to choose one of these in terms of the length of the series, how you see this probably going out? And look, maybe there is something to this idea that maybe Giannis isn't going to play, and if he doesn't, does this push you towards the 5-6 instead of the 6-7?
No, I don't think it does. I think this is a 6 or 7 for me. I think I would take 6 because it pays a little bit more. So I think that's where I would go with it. But I think this is a long series, even if GA doesn't play, because Milwaukee, after losing GA in the last 2 games against Atlanta, never lost the lead in those games. They are very efficient. So Chuck is saying this a little tongue in cheek because GA is one of the best players in the NBA, and of course your team is better if you have him. Of course. But they move the ball efficiently. They look crisp without him right now. So I think it's going to be contested series even if GA doesn't play at all. So my pick would be 6 games.
All right, when you're looking ahead to the series spread in terms of winning and losing here, the Bucks winning by 1.5 there on the money line, and the Suns minus 1.5 plus 114 for the Suns, minus 140. Any thoughts here on that number?
I think I'd take the Suns minus the 1.5. So
okay,
yeah, I think that's a pretty good bet, especially if I think it's going to end in 6. That makes sense.
All right, well, if you think it's going to end in 6, then I guess the question becomes, who's the champion at the end of that series? Because right now, the consensus we're looking at is Phoenix Suns minus 200 and Milwaukee Bucks plus 175 to get in before the series begins. So, I mean, look, when you come down to this, it's clear that Phoenix is the favorite in this. We've kind of established that going in. But, with the plus 175, is that enough to even get involved in the potential, I guess, upset? Because it's not a huge potential one either. So are you better off just kind of laying the favorite here, putting heavy money down on the favorite for the minus 200, playing it that way, and in a way safe, but also probably the better investment considering all the possible negatives Milwaukee's dealing with in these series?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Suns minus 200. Like you said, I'm going to lay the bigger money. And I know sometimes that's harder to do, but it's just the Bucks have such a big problem with GA. Even if he does come back, how effective is he going to be? Is it going to be like when the Lakers try to bring AD back and he's going to go right back out? So I think that I'd be putting more money on the longer, the minus 200 than I would be just that number is not big enough for me to take the Bucks in this series without GA.
Let me set up a scenario that is possible to play out, and I want to get your take on this in terms of the line potentially moving. So let's say the Suns are up 2-1, and then we get that fourth game. Giannis is back by the fourth game, let's say. He has a huge game, and the series is tied at 2. Is that something where you believe then a little bit more, or do you think you just go right back and double down on the Phoenix Suns because all of a sudden maybe the Phoenix Suns' favorite number in the negative column comes back a little bit from that -2 to maybe somewhere more like a 150 or even a 110 or something like that?
No, if GA plays and they take momentum on that game, he has an enormous game. He plays a bunch of minutes and he looks good. I think I would, I would. They're taking momentum at that point too. I would go back and bet on the Bucks. I just don't. My gut feeling is that GA is not going to play at all. I know that they say he is. I hope he does. I would love to see him in the finals. It always sucks when you see a guy finally get there, but he's banged up and he can't play. But I just have a feeling that he's not going to play in this series.
All right, let's move forward here with the NBA Finals MVP and take a look at the numbers here. Chris Paul, the favorite, at plus 155. Devin Booker at plus 250. Then you've got Middleton at plus 550. Giannis at plus 650, which, I mean, if the guy plays and he plays well enough and pulls a Willis Reed, I mean, who's to say that that number doesn't pay off? Now, that's kind of the fun bet. Then you got Drew Holiday at 750 on the plus side, and a few other guys like Brook Lopez 65-1. You're not going to talk about these guys. Let's talk about the guys that really have a chance here, because this is typically that star award. So you're getting a pretty decent number here, I think, with Chris Paul at plus 155. What are your thoughts on the favorite, and what are your thoughts on the rest of this field?
Yeah, I think, my favorite is definitely Chris Paul. And at that number, like you said, I like him. I don't see a way that the Suns win and he doesn't get the MVP. There's so much. This is the narrative. This is the storyline built into this finals, is Chris Paul finally getting there, being the difference for the Suns, super emotional, making the finals for the first time. I don't see a way if the Suns win, he's not MVP. If the Bucks win, I think there's a multitude of guys that could get in here.
Well, let's walk through those. What are some of those scenarios you can paint here for people who maybe want to get in, maybe on smaller wagers on some of these bigger odds a little bit, just to hedge the Chris Paul? You could drop a big number on Chris Paul at the plus 155.
Right.
Let's call him 100 on that. If you had 10 or 20 more to throw somewhere, where would you want to throw it?
Right. Well, Middleton, I think, is going to be the leading scorer for the Bucks. You've seen the ball run through him. He's a good defensive player too. So, he's going to be stopping Booker or Paul or somebody and scoring on the other end. So I think he's the best bet for the Bucks to win. I love GA
best bet
plus
for your buck. That's actually catchy.
That's right.
I like that.
GA plus 650 is great, especially if he comes back in game 2 or 3, kind of unexpectedly, but like I said before, I think that's it might be lighting your money on fire if the guy doesn't play. So I don't know that I would bet him. My other one, Brook Lopez. Look, this number is enormous at plus 6,500 for Brook Lopez. And he has to shut down Ayton for the Bucks to have a shot here. And I think he can. He leads the playoffs in block shots and steals. He's playing like, he has he's doing all the HGH or something, like he's Tom Brady. I mean, he is turning back the clock right now, and he looks fantastic. So if he is big and just frustrating Ayton, and he's going to be one of the main factors in the Bucks if they win this series. He'll grab those rebounds, which both of these teams have been doing very well. He'll be stopping a big factor in Ayton, and he'll be big on the offensive side too. So I think throwing a couple shekels on Brook Lopez isn't a bad bet at this gigantic number right here.
All right, well, let's dip into the pouch of shekels and talk about the top scorer. We have Devin Booker at minus 155. Again, this number's from the FanDuel Sportsbook specifically. Chris Middleton at plus 185. Then, of course, you go to Giannis, who we're slightly concerned about. You've got Ayton, Chris Paul, Drew Holiday, all at 10-1. But what are your thoughts here about Booker, Middleton here? Because these are the two favorites. Obviously, you're getting a much better number with the plus 185 on Middleton. minus 155 on Booker. Is it a stay away because you think it's Booker, or you think Middleton really has a shot at this?
Nah, anything not Booker in this series is a sucker's bet. So it's definitely Booker. I love Middleton, and he'll probably lead the Bucks in scoring, but they'll still spread it out. I mean, Booker can go absolutely off. So I think it's Booker. I don't think it's close, and there's no one else I'd bet on.
All right, well, let's take a look then at Booker's number, shall we? Because that number, look at the segue, so good. 28.5 right now. That is the number they've set for his series point average. Minus 113 on both sides, on the over, on the under. So 28.5, obviously it's a good number. This is what they do. They set these really good numbers. So do you want to go over, under, or is it a stay away and instead you just kind of maybe double down and put more money over on Booker being the top point scorer at the minus 155?
That's what I would do. I don't. This is such a good number, like you said. You know that they're paid to make good numbers. So this is such a good number. But I think with both these teams being defensively efficient, I mean, Drew Holiday probably drawing Booker if he is absolutely going off. I think it's going to be under that if I had to bet one, but I think I'd stay away from that number.
All right, there you have it. You know, there's one more on here too. Just since you mentioned Brook Lopez, let's throw it out there too, because maybe you see a little possibility here. The number for Brook Lopez in terms of his series point average, 14.5 is the over-under. Your thoughts on that?
I don't have a good feel for that number. I think that's a good number. I'd probably say under if I had to pick something, but I'm more on Brook Lopez frustrating Ayton, you know, maybe getting to the foul line. So maybe you would go over on that. But I like Lopez winning the MVP as a long shot, of course. Just throwing, you know, 10, $15 on him, whatever it is, because of his defensive side, not because of his scoring, although he can't score.
Very good. All right. So now that the NBA season's kind of, you know, almost at the end here, your big takeaways going into next season, because I know you're an NBA guy, so I'm just kind of curious what you think kind of carries over. Are we going to get a better, more complete version of the Nets next year? Or are we going to get the Lakers kind of reconfigured? Like, where do you think things are going here in this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're going to have the Olympics, and a lot of these guys are playing through that too. But I am looking forward to these players getting rest, because they really didn't. You know, they didn't get any rest last year, and it was rough, and the injuries are piling up. And this is part of the reason why they want to have the asterisk, right, on this finals, because this year has been so littered with injuries. So I'm looking forward to the, a real NBA draft, a real summer league, the Olympics, and resting these players so that going into next year, they come in healthier and we don't see them break down so quick. That's really my biggest takeaway from this weird 2020-2021 season. So I think it's going to be way more fun if we see our stars like LeBron and Curry and Klay Thompson back. The Warriors are going to be good. The Nets are going to be great. The Lakers are going to be in there. The Suns are going to be back with this crew for the most part. So it's going to be very, very exciting next year. And it's way more wide open than it has been, I think.
All right, so Suns in 6, is that where we're going here, Boggs?
Suns in 6, yeah, I know. I should say Suns in 4 because the Suns in 4 guy, but I'm taking Suns in 6.
The Suns in 4 guy was certainly a character, that's for sure. But I'll tell you what a profit he would be if that ended up becoming the sweep, and what a lot of money. One can only imagine that guy is making the Suns in 4 wager. One can only hope that he's doing that. He's got to stay on brand, after all, Bogman. That's what you do. Now, Scott Bogman's always on brand. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at Bogman Sports. And again, check out inthisleague.com, and you can join that Patreon ITL army. They got great content over there covering all the sports and everything in between, and very entertaining at that. Plus, you can also check out all the work they do for Sports Grid. Also, Boggs, thanks so much for hanging out with us for a little while, talking about NBA Finals. We hope everybody enjoys the close to the NBA season, and hopefully we'll get some Giannis in there, and that would be nice to see, because it would be a good story, and God knows I'm a sucker for a good story. So let's hope that he's healthy enough to make an appearance or two at least, and make things interesting. Other than that, Suns in 6 feels about right to us here. So that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Bogman, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.